What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Dr. Ricky. It's been a while since I've made a long form video, but here we are. Today we're going to talk MMA. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I love the UFC. I actually do jiu-jitsu myself. I've been doing it for a couple of years, and ever since I started jiu-jitsu, watching MMA has taken on a whole new level for me. I don't know if you guys watched UFC 306 in the Sphere. It was a spectacular event. The visual inside of that place is unbelievable. I wish that I was there, but it was truly incredible to watch it even on TV. If you watched, I'm sure you know that the main card included Sugar Sean O'Malley and Merab Dvalishvili. I don't know about you guys, but for me personally, because I love Sugar Sean and I watch him all the time, something just didn't seem right, man. He didn't seem to have the energy that he normally has, and he certainly didn't seem to me like he was as explosive in getting around the ring like he normally does. Well, after a crushing defeat against Merab in UFC 306, it was revealed by Sean that he had suffered a labral injury to the left hip some 10 weeks prior and decided to keep it quiet because he just wanted to fight. He wanted to give the fans what they wanted to see and give it his best shot. So he didn't say anything to anyone, Dana White, nobody knew but his team, and he showed up that day and it was very obvious that something was wrong. In his podcast with his coach, he revealed that he would probably be taking off somewhere close to a year.
I probably won't fight for 9 months, 10 months, maybe a year.
Which is quite some time to take off for a labral injury of the hip. But I will tell you, labrums can be difficult. I'm sure all of you know someone who's had a labral injury in the shoulder or the hip at some point in their life. So let's talk about the labrum. In the hip, the labrum is basically tissue that lines what we call the acetabulum, otherwise known as the socket part of the ball and socket joint. There are four main functions of the labrum. First, stability. It acts as a gasket to suction the head of the femur into the joint to give it stability. It also helps keep those bones aligned, so as the femoral head rotates and you're doing different things, it stays aligned with the hip so that it has optimal function. The second feature of the labrum is lubrication. It lubricates the joint so that things glide smoothly and seamlessly without any pain. A third main function is it acts as a shock absorber for the hip. The labrum is able to distribute loads in the hip evenly to keep everything functional. And finally, protection. The labrum basically protects the socket and keeps the bones from grinding together. So the hip bone and the femoral bone don't grind together because there's a labrum, and there's also something on the femoral head that allows for that smooth rotation in the hip. Today, we're going to get into why this is such a big deal and why few athletes will ever fully recover from an injury like this. But before we do that, I got to give major props to Sean for stepping into the ring and saying out loud and making it a point that had nothing to do with Mereb's amazing victory. It's very classy of him to not blame his hip for the problem because he made that decision to get in the ring, and even though he knew he wasn't the best that day, you can't take away from the incredible performance of his opponent. Merab outstruck Sugar Sean 214-49 with an incredible victory and completely dominated him on the ground. So what exactly happened to Sugar Sean? Well, Sean revealed that this actually happened 10 weeks prior to the fight, where he suffered a torn labrum in a training session. Rather than calling off the fight and letting his fans down, Sean and his team made the decision to manage the injury during fight camp and ultimately step into the ring. So I have a little bit of experience in this area, and while I'm no orthopedic surgeon, I had a total hip replacement just over 18 months ago. I had a congenital issue in my hip. I'm an avid CrossFitter, and as I told you at the top of the show, I also do jiu-jitsu, a lot of hiking. I'm a very active guy. I personally had a congenital problem in my hip, which basically led to grade 4 arthritis, where I was essentially bone on bone. My labrum was starting to tear, things were starting to fray, and it was very clear that I was getting to the point where I couldn't live with the discomfort anymore in my hip. Now, I was told probably a good 3 to 4 years prior that I needed a hip replacement. But instead of having that done because I was in my late 40s, I decided to just grind it out, go as far as I could until I absolutely needed to have surgery. So I was still doing CrossFit. I was having a lot of right groin pain, but I was still able to pretty much squat pain-free and do almost anything in there. As time went on, I slowly but surely got to where I couldn't even bend over to tie my shoe because I had so much pain. If I dropped something, I would have to step out with my foot to lean over to get it because I couldn't actually bend at the hip joint to lean over and pick the object up. Now, I started jiu-jitsu about a year and a half prior to having my total hip replacement. And it was very clear to me in the gym that there were certain positions like modified mount, things where I couldn't sink deep into my right hip and get into the actual position that I needed to be in. I simply just didn't have the mobility, and it also hurt. So I can only imagine that Sugar Sean running around that rink with a torn labrum must have been in excruciating pain, and because he is the professional athlete that he is, he just blocked it out and let it rip. During his podcast with his coach Tim Welsh, Sean said it could be up to a year before you see him fight again. To me, that indicates just how severe his issue is. You see, most people who experience minor tears in their labrum, they don't always need surgery. A lot of times you can heal these injuries with just physical therapy, rest, and anti-inflammatory medication. Even more severe tears will generally call for more minimally invasive arthroscopic procedures. And I would say that most patients are back within 6 weeks to maybe a few months. Now, obviously, they're not going to be full speed, but they're going to be able to start doing something at least within a few months of having that procedure. Now, like I said, I'm no orthopedic surgeon, but the more severe labral tears, those can require a pretty complicated procedure. Now, Sugar Sean's injury basically comes down to how severe is this labral tear. But make no mistake, guys, hip surgery is a big deal. Take it from me. Now, I will say this, believe it or not, a total hip replacement like mine, people may be back a lot faster than something like a labral tear. I mean, how can that be? That sounds crazy, right? Well, with a labral tear, there is not much margin for error to re-injure that area. If you go too hard too soon, you can re-tear it and you're starting right back at square one. For a total hip replacement like mine, they actually completely strip the entire labrum out of the joint. They then cut off the head of the femur. They put what we call a stem inside the femur that has a new ball, like the ball and socket joint. And the socket side gets a cap which gets placed in it, and then a plastic cap where you snap the ball into the socket and the hip is good to go. So for someone like me, my recovery was actually a lot less than Sugar Sean's is going to be because they completely reconstructed my joint. It had full function, and so all I had to do was recover, regain my strength, and then start working out again and getting stability. In fact, I had zero physical therapy after my total hip replacement. Because I was in such incredible shape, I was literally back in the gym doing body weight exercises within 6 weeks. Within another, I would say 4 to 5 weeks, I was pulling heavy deadlifts, doing power cleans, squatting. I obviously took it slow and didn't load too heavy, but literally by, I would say easily by 7 to 8 months out of my procedure, I was able to squat 225, pull pretty reasonably heavy deadlifts, and do just about anything I wanted to in the gym. With that said, I for sure still have a little bit of hip pain, and I think that's going to be there forever because you literally have metal pieces in the joint that have to integrate, and there's always going to be some areas that just rub a nerve the wrong way or have a little bit of pain. But as far as function goes, I'm not limited with anything that I want to do. But I'm no professional athlete. So let's take a look at some MMA fighters and other athletes who have recovered from some similar injuries that Sugar Sean has. Like Frankie Edgar, who underwent a total hip replacement shortly after UFC 268, where he faced a brutal KO from Marlon Vera. Frankie was clearly a step slow that night, and an interview after the event would shed some light as he revealed that his hip surgery led to some nerve injury in his lower back. And because of that, he possibly would require further intervention. Next, we have a fan favorite, Dustin Porrier, who had to undergo surgery in 2019 to repair multiple tears in the same hip labrum. Although many fans would agree Dustin did not look the same after his procedure, he slowly regained his explosiveness and was able to compete at the highest level again several years later. But who knows where he would be now if that injury didn't stop him. And I hope we can say the same for Sugar Sean. Because at the end of the day, a hip surgery is a big deal for an MMA fighter. And there is a chance that we may never see Sean recover the incredible speed and reflexes that made him such an incredible champion. But if there's one thing we know about Sugar Sean O'Malley, it's that he doesn't back down from a challenge. His entire career has been built on defying the odds, from overcoming early setbacks to climbing to the very top of the bantamweight division. Surgery is a setback, yes, but it's also an opportunity for Sean to rebuild and recalibrate and come back stronger than ever, both mentally and physically. And let's not forget, fighters like Dustin Porrier have shown us with the right mindset and dedication to recovery, it is possible to return to elite competition. And in today's world of advanced medical treatments, there's every chance that we will see Sugar Sean back in the octagon, ready to prove to the world and to himself that this is just another obstacle in his legendary career. So while we don't know what the future holds, one thing is for sure. When Sugar Sean O'Malley makes his comeback, the whole MMA world will be watching. Let's just hope that this is the beginning of another chapter in the Sugar Show, a chapter where Sean defies expectations once again. All right, my friends, that's it. It really broke my heart to watch Sugar Sean go down like that because he's such an incredible fighter, but I have no doubt that he is going to work his way back and he is going to be brand new and he will be right back at the top of the bantamweight division. But until next time, Dr. Ricky, out.